Game Over 86 coming back with another video. Today, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be talking about something kind of big, something kind of positive that I like to talk about in the video game world. Anytime I can spread some positive knowledge that maybe people aren't talking about because it's not always trending, but something unique caught my eye, and I want to read a little bit more on it, and I will show you guys as we read along a little bit more about it. Now, I did look over a little bit of this stuff. I have researched a little bit of this stuff, and it does look legit, but they have stated that video games now can detect early stages of Alzheimer's better than regular medical tests, from what researchers have stated. And we're going to go ahead and look over some of this stuff because I think it's kind of cool and unique. I don't know if anybody's ever had a family member that that suffers Alzheimer's or that has struggling issues with that or early stages of that, which is always a real bad thing. Especially when they're so far gone and they literally can't be out of your sight longer than 5 minutes. That is it's very hard, not only on the family members but just the person himself, especially if they were like a real life lively expressionist person like myself, and now they're all like kind of zombied out to where they just don't know what's all going on around them. That is always a big deal, and that's one disease that I've always felt like really kind of just takes the person away from the person. If that makes any sense. It really takes the life out of them. And this ain't me just going on and on, but there's other illnesses out there that affect people too. I'm just saying Alzheimer's just seems like it's that one that takes the personality out of the person. But we're going to go ahead and look over a little bit of this stuff. And I go by other news sources. I don't just go by one and then hit it. I've done a little bit of research on this. But it does state over here, and I believe the person that did it is Ryan Pryor. From CNN. As you guys can see, this video that I'm making is a little bit later on when this has been taking place, but just to talk a little bit about it, they say just a few minutes. This is what researchers and everybody has been doing tests on, that they said they could figure out and help identify early stages of Alzheimer's, which is always a positive if this is fully 100% what they have been doing. And it also says in ways of existing medical tests can't. So when we go through that, we'll read some more stuff. But it does say a new study used a smartphone app called Sea Hero Quest to monitor how gamers with or without genetic predisposition, excuse me guys, to Alzheimer's navigate and through the virtual world. So using their thumbs to move a little boat through a series of maritime mazes, which is okay. I've tried that before when you're a younger kid. I think hand-eye coordination and like eye testings, they used to have some of that. It wasn't the best things. They also had games where there were number counters and stuff. That it was a real popular game back in the day. I'm talking like before PC gaming was even like 91, 92. Just real oddball stuff, but it was always been passed down. People still like playing that game. Anyway, it also talks about this type of test was key because of the navigation is emerging as a critical factor in identifying preclinical Alzheimer's disease. And it says that a lot of their studies, and they were talking about a guy that wrote a book here, which you guys can read. I'm not just going to read all that off, but it says players with a high genetic risk of Alzheimer's took less efficient routes to reach checkpoints in the game. So that's kind of weird. It's kind of unique how like they took less, efficient routes. People with a high genetic risk of Alzheimer's. It also says researchers found that, what's more, the movement patterns were identified among players in the genetic risk pool who had not yet displayed any other memory problems. That's what they said. It also states right here, by casting an online global net for survey subjects, scientists also managed to reach their conclusion in what might be described as a warp speed. A lot of this stuff may kind of sound confusing, but they also say they've marked the equivalent of a 5-hour worth of lab research for every 2 minutes of gameplay. And it says, because the vast sums of data about each player are available in every second of play. Now, that's kind of cool. So everything in data that they've been researching for every second at every 2 minutes of gameplay for the 5 hours. I mean, that's a lot of information to find, especially with people that are having possible Alzheimer's effects or something like that. That's kind of cool. Your patterns, you're changing up your own ways. It's very unique and very complicated. And I'm not a doctor by any means. I'm not a medical scientist and all that stuff. I just found like this was something to read to you guys as well. I found it interesting. I read a lot of stuff. I read all the time at my own house anyway, and I like to write. So I like seeing a lot of this stuff. It kind of just opens up the whole spectrum when you're talking about just video games, especially what it could cure or possibly help lead to in the future. That's always a positive. They say the offerings offered a wide range of possibilities, including the developmental of more personalized measures for the future of diagnostics and drug treatment programs. That's kind of cool. The largest dementia study in history, researchers set out to test a spatial navigation hypothesis in a novel way. They created the Sea Hero Quest and engaged casual gamers around the globe. So that was kind of cool. They didn't just focus on one area of the, whether it be the United States, whether it just be UK or Australia. I mean, they focused on gamers around the whole globe, so that's cool. And then they also stated that making their scientific purpose cleared up front, developers focused on Apple and Android users in the United Kingdom. So letting them decide whether to allow researchers to collect data about how they maneuver through the game's virtual world. And that's something big too, is because when they're focusing on this, a lot of people are understanding, which way are they going through the game? How are they looking at the game? What parts of the game that they're going to be looking at, where they're focusing on your mind and all that other stuff. It says they ended up, though, with 4.3 million players, setting the stage for what they call the largest dementia study in history, that's cool. That's cool to see that people will come out and support not only science, but to help possibly find a cure or find ways to help detect it, whether it be the simple thing through a phone or a video game console or even headset, a VR or something like that. And I said in recent videos with augmented reality and stuff like that, it's only going to get better, I think, for medical science going forward, which is always a plus. They said scientists then homed in data for more than 27,000 players between ages of 50 and 75. That's crazy, man. I don't think my grandfather at that age, even though he's older now, would have got out and did that. But that was back in the day, so... He says the group at a high risk of developing, Alzheimer's symptoms with a decade to create a global benchmark for how most people navigate the game in steady states. Now that's kind of cool. It also says finally they compared those results to the performance of 60 people in a lab, 31 with the gene APOE4, which increases Alzheimer's risk, and 29 without. So there was a more percentage of people with it than without, which is kind of weird. Kind of cool and unique. When I say cool, I mean that's good news that they're finding some of this stuff. It says memory tests are still the standard from what they state. It says by focusing navigation as an early identifier of Alzheimer's, the Sea Hero Quest test differed from the memory of cognition tests typical used in clinics. It says current diagnosis of dementia is strongly based on memory symptoms, which we all know are occurring, and this is I quote with all this stuff, occurring when the disease is quite advanced. Michael Hornberger, the lead researcher, said in a news release, instead emerging evidence shows that subtle sporadic navigation and awareness defects can precede memory symptoms by many years. That's pretty crazy. That's kind of shocking in a way for them to find out some of this stuff. It says it's navigation skills often among the first clear signs that dementia is taking a toll on somebody's life. The awareness and navigation, I should say. And these are big time researchers from the UK and other places, which have, they said, collaborated together. Evans often hears heartbreaking stories, and it's weird because he says Evans often, and I think it's supposed to say hears, heartbreaking stories about people with dementia who get lost and can't find their way home. That's crazy. And that's what I mean by, there's people that have, and I'm not downplaying any of these when I say this, but there's people out there that have like cancer, all different forms of it, other diseases and illnesses. And it's like they don't lose. A lot of them are strong mentally, and I've had people in my family that have had cancer that have passed and have succeeded in one. So this is by no means no sad story. I'm just saying, when you think of dementia or Alzheimer's or whatnot, they lose that person in them. They don't know who they are. They forget where they're at. They don't even know who their family is anymore. So it's like they lose the person. It's just like a empty soul in a way. And I'm not trying to sound like I'm a scientist, like I said before, and can't even freaking read today, it seems like. But it's just sad to see that people out there, when they live their lives like this, and then you see video games and other things like this are still, possibly finding out new ways to find early Alzheimer's or even dementia and other stuff that affects people's everyday life. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not downplaying cancer, but I'm saying then people still have a personality. They're still in there. They still understand who they are. They understand who's around them. People with Alzheimer's and dementia, they forget like who they are. They forget who they're married to, or they forget going 3 blocks down the road where they live. And that's a scary thing, because even if you're struggling with illnesses, and I'm not saying this is a bad, huge illness, which it is, but I'm not saying it's worse than the others. I'm just stating that it's just crazy to see how many people are being affected by this every day. And it's not just this. But I want to finish this out, and I'll give you guys my final thoughts on the whole test. It says, See Who Request was developed in partnership between researchers at University College of London and the University of East Anglia and Alzheimer's Research UK. It was created by the app developer Glitches and funded by Deutsche Telekom. So that's kind of cool to see. Now, to be quite honest though with you guys, and this is where I've always said, do a good deed, stay safe, take care of one another. It's not some little gimmick that I came up with, honestly. It's really not. I've always said that to people that I meet out on the streets, whether it's them telling me, hey man, I got a new job, this is my last day here. I always say, man, that's awesome, brother, or that's awesome, sister, the people that they are, because we're supposed to be genuine. We're supposed to care for one another. We're supposed to reach out and to help people with a struggle, whether it be mental, physical, even financial, man. It's always good to help people out when you can. And it's always good to show that support, whether it be somebody that's related to you or not, because there's a lot of people in this world that don't have that support. And to see these tests showing, even just the regular memory standard test, they still say are to the standard. They say that they're still the top leading. That's what they would use. But to find out that they're finding like video games and, all this other, stuff that are somewhat backed by researchers saying that, hey, video games can detect early Alzheimer's, is something kind of big. And I'm not using it as a video game in a negative way. There's so many people that always use video games in negative ways. I always try to use video games in a positive way unless it needs to be criticized constructively. So to see this, that they're focusing in on more medical science with a video game is so amazing to me, because of where video games came from and now what they are today, in a society that is now accepting video gaming as an equal compared to everything else, whether it be professionally, as esports or a job, Twitch streamers, YouTubers, whatever, whoever's just gaming. And it's cool to see that people are stepping out of their boundaries and really pushing themselves rather than staying complacent and really focusing on the true aspect of the world, which is your life, which is life in general. You only get one shot. You only live once, in my opinion. And I think it's the best thing to do is to live life to the fullest, make everything matter, really focus in on, what people want, what people are really striving for. And if they need support, not only emotionally and spiritually and financially, every now and then, if you can, it's always good to help somebody out. Now, I'm not saying go and give them your whole paycheck, but if you see somebody out there that may need a bite to eat, and and you've seen them the last 3-4 weeks and they're not just panhandling to screw somebody over, and you know these people are really, really genuinely needing this. It's okay to maybe give them $5 to let them get a meal. And I know you see all these stuff on TV about negativity and how people are treating each other. And I just want to say, when you focus in on what we just talked about, dementia, and you talk about Alzheimer's, and like I said, I mean, these people don't even remember their kids. They don't even remember their own wife. They think that they're somewhere else. And it's sad, because the personality of who you got attached to, whether it be your wife, whether it be your kids, whether it be your husband or your boyfriend or your girlfriend or your mom or your dad or your aunts and uncles, grandparents and aunts and uncles. When you get attached to these people and you build a relationship with them, which I know a lot of people out there can relate. Everybody has struggles in life. Everybody has certain boundaries and obstacles and stuff like that that they have to overcome and succeed and jump through. And I know there's other illnesses out there that affect people on a daily basis, but when they see the future, not only in video gaming, affecting this, which is a big deal with dementia and Alzheimer's, and I keep saying that, it's like living with your mom and dad or your brother for 20 years until you move out on your own, but you're always going to be with them. And then all of a sudden, they're not your brother and sister, your mom and your dad anymore. It's like you go over and sing happy birthday, they have no clue. You go to call them and you ask them, hey, how's it going? They have no clue who you are. They can conversate with you, but right afterwards, I mean, they still don't know who they're talking to. They could think it's, an aunt from 50 years ago. They could think it's somebody else. And that's the crazy thing, is that people forget, is that's one of the scariest things ever, is when you grow old with your wife or husband. And I'm not here preaching. I'm just saying, think about this, because this is how I'm going to end the video. When you grow up with somebody, you're married or you've been with them forever, and you find out that they don't know you anymore. That's a scary thought, I think. And I think with tests and video games and how they're very, fastly growing and becoming more and more accepted into this world, not only in just societies where it's accepted, who gives a shit, I've always said about that, but where scientists and all these medical examiners are really starting to use it. I think that's really cool for the gaming world. I think it's cool for the gaming community to talk about it, but a lot of the gaming community is just going to talk about like what's hot and what's trending. I like to just talk about some of the stuff and give you guys some personal love and show you guys some stories that may not everybody be talking about on YouTube. Now, will this get a lot of views? I don't know. I'm not here for views. I just care about spreading some love and some joy. Hell, I even misspelled some of these words in here, and I know you guys may hate me down in the comments for it, but stuff happens, man. I'm not making excuses. I just jumbled up my words, I think, too fast. But like I said, guys, that's how I want to end it. Just think about that. Growing old with somebody, and then all of a sudden 30, 40 years of your life with them, and they don't even know who you are now. That's really scary. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not downplaying the cancer. If somebody you live with for 30, 40 years had cancer, and I hope to God that they're getting over it. I hope to God they can win that fight. But a lot of the people that have cancer, and I can't speak for everybody, but when my grandmother had cancer, she didn't lose who she was. She still knew who she was. She still knew who her grandkids were. She still knew who her kids were. She didn't lose that personality. And I think with Alzheimer's and dementia, that's the scariest thing, is when you leave your wife or you leave your mom or somebody gone, or even your kids, and they don't even know where they're at. And they may be 2 blocks around, or they may be in another state thinking they're heading home. That's a scary, scary situation. But anyway, guys, I want to know what you guys think about this. And I'm sorry to get all not really emotional or touchy. I just understand that there are people out there with struggles. And I thank God that I have a healthy family and a healthy wife and kids, and I have good support, moral support, and I have good, physical and mental support from my family, and I hope you guys do as well. So anyway, with that being said, if you're new to the channel and you guys do like the channel, and I'm sorry that this video went on a little bit longer than normal, hit the subscribe button, support the channel by hitting the thumbs up and the bell icon, and sharing this video with somebody that you may know that struggles with dementia, or maybe struggles with Alzheimer's. That would maybe look at this and say, you know what, that's kind of unique and cool that they're trying new things, trying to focus and find maybe possible new cures, or maybe early signs of it to where they can fix it to where it don't become too bad and too late, in the future for somebody out there. Anyway, guys, I'm Game Over 86. Thank you for stopping by the channel. I love you very much. Do a good deed. Stay safe and take care of one another as always. I'll see you on the next video. Peace.